Oh boy, it's that time of year again, isn't it? Christmas is over, the new year is coming at some point, and you've ingested so much cheese and wine that you probably can't even recall your own name, let alone what day of the week it is. Don't worry, my confused little munchkin. Grab yourself another charcuterie board and a glass of Merlot and forget about your troubles whilst I tell you all about the finest video games released in the last 12 months. As is tradition, we've taken a look at Metacritic to find out exactly which titles were the most wonderful in 2023. To qualify for this list, a game must have received a minimum of 7 professional reviews and been released in at least one territory in 2023. Furthermore, we don't count ports, collections, or re-releases, so no The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt for the Switch on this list, I'm afraid, though remasters and remakes are fair game. Right, if you've got all of that, best hawk down that prosciutto and chug that vino, because I'm Ashton from TripleJump, and here are the 10 best games of 2023. Number 10, Sea of Stars, Switch, 91%. When I first heard the name of this game, I'm not going to lie, I thought it was a description of our most recent company boat trip. You know, because we're all stars here at Team TripleJump. However, it turns out that Sea of Stars is actually a neat little RPG released in August 2023. The boat trip was lit though, we got James to do a barbecue and everything. Sea of Stars is a retro-style RPG from developer and publisher Sabotage Studio, and tells the story of Valere and Zell, a pair of solstice warriors able to wield the power of the sun and moon, who find themselves facing the wrath of an evil alchemist. The game is relatively standard RPG fare, with turn-based combat and elements of puzzle solving, plus players able to control up to 6 different characters. It wears its influence plainly for all to see, clearly having been inspired by SNES-era titles such as Chrono Trigger and Super Mario RPG, and pays homage to such games wonderfully. Critics were hugely impressed with Sea of Stars, listing its graphics, story, and modern yet nostalgic gameplay as reasons for its excellence. At the time of writing, it's already won a Golden Joystick and is nominated for 2 TGAs as well. Very, very well deserved. Number 9, Slay the Princess, PC, 91%. Over the years, the trope of saving the damsel in distress has become somewhat cliché, and as such, video game developers have tried numerous ways of putting a twist on the narrative. However, I don't think we've ever seen it done quite like this before. In Slay the Princess, players are placed in the shoes of an unnamed hero who is instructed to kill the princess, who's been imprisoned in the basement of a cabin in the woods, and it's up to the player to decide what to do from there. The game plays out in visual novel form, and the story progresses in different ways depending on what the player decides to do and/or say. This really is one that needs to be experienced to be fully appreciated, so we won't spoil too much, but let's just say that it's not long before things start to get really weird. This unassuming looking indie title went down a treat with both players and critics when it was released in October 2023, with reviewers lauding its branching narrative, spooky atmosphere, and the fantastic performances of voice actors Jonathan Sims and Nicole Goodnight. I guess it's not just our unnamed hero that can slay. Huh. Number 8, Cocoon, PlayStation 5, 92%. Do you like puzzles and small insects? Then by golly, you're going to get a kick out of this next entry. Developed by Geometric Interactive and published by Annapurna Interactive, Cocoon is a neat little puzzler that sees players inhabiting the body of a beetle who discovers a mysterious orb. Orbs contain the game's worlds, and it's up to players to solve the brain teasers within and confront each orb's boss, who can all be beaten with the power of brain smarts. Cocoon was very well received by critics, racking up high average review scores on all platforms. The puzzles, designs, and how each interacted with others was lauded, as was the art direction and soundtrack, both of which came together to make players truly feel like they're traversing an alien environment. The game is nominated for Best Independent Game and Best Debut Indie Game at the Game Awards, and won the Breakout Award at the 2023 Golden Joysticks. Well done there. Those seeking a meditative game that will get the little grey cells flexing, though not too much, could do a whole lot worse than to immerse themselves in the many extraterrestrial worlds of Cocoon. Number 7, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Switch, 92%. Oh look everyone, it's our favourite mustachioed Italian plumber! I did wonder when he'd be making an appearance. After all, he can usually be found hanging out somewhere in the vicinity of the best of X year lists. I wonder what he's got in store for us this time. Hitting the Switch in October 2023, Super Mario Bros. Wonder stars the titular Nintendo mascot and sees him embarking on a mission to defeat Bowser, who has stolen the Flower Kingdom's Wonder Flower and used it to turn himself into a giant flying fortress, imprisoning the Flower Kingdom citizens inside in the process. You gotta hand it to Bowser, boy's still creative, even after all these years. Side-scrolling and platforming are the order of the day here, but don't be fooled into thinking this is the same old Super Mario of yore, as now he can turn into an elephant, because... actually, I'm not sure why, but he can, and I'm here for it. Super Mario Bros. Wonder went down a treat with critics, who were incredibly impressed with the gameplay, graphics, and the innovativeness on show. Within 2 weeks of its release, the title had sold over 4.3 million copies, making it the fastest-selling Super Mario title of all time. Sounds like there's going to be a lot of bubbly at the Nintendo Christmas party this year. Number 6, Street Fighter 6, PlayStation 5, 92%. From platforming to punching now, as we take a look at Street Fighter 6, the hotly anticipated 7th main installment in the venerable Street Fighter Wait, hang on. 7th main installment? Bloody video game numbering strikes again. Ridiculous naming conventions aside, Street Fighter 6 is actually a fantastic game. Developed and published by Capcom and built on the proprietary RE engine, Street Fighter 6 boasts a variety of exciting features. It includes 3 gameplay modes, Fighting Ground, World Tour and Battle Hub, a roster of 18 World Warriors and more coming in DLC in the future, and the Drive Gauge system, which encourages players to get creative whilst fighting. Street Fighter 6 released in June 2023 to universal critical acclaim, and though some felt a little let down by the story, this wasn't nearly enough to take away from the overall enjoyable experience of playing. Critics applauded the online play, the character creator that allowed players to get super goofy with their custom fighters, and the huge amount of content the game offered. Street Fighter V might have been something of a disappointment, but it's safe to say that Capcom have more than redeemed themselves with Street Fighter 6. Number 5, Resident Evil 4, PlayStation 5, 93%. Over the past few years, Capcom have been working their way through the Resident Evil back catalogue and remaking them, updating them for modern gamers while still retaining everything that made the originals so popular, and the results have been incredible. Their latest offering, the remake of 2005's Resident Evil 4, is no different. Players step into the shoes of Resident Evil's resident himbo, Leon S. Kennedy, as he travels to rural Spain in order to rescue the president's kidnapped daughter, Ashley. Sadly, he gets more than he bargained for, when he finds out that she's been snatched by a parasite-worshipping cult who plan to use her to take over the world. Not only did Resident Evil 4 get shiny new graphics, but Capcom also overhauled the controls, combat, story, and the gameplay mechanics. The Resident Evil 4 remake received universal critical acclaim when it was released in March 2023, with critics falling over themselves to praise everything from its graphics and art direction to the changes made to the gameplay. Best of all, though, is the original game's director Shinji Mikami played the remake and said he, and I quote, enjoyed it very much, and if that's not a glowing recommendation, I don't know what is. Number 4, Metroid Prime Remastered, Switch, 94%. We're sticking with remakes and remasters for the time being, as we turn our attention to Metroid Prime Remastered for the Switch. A title that is, would you believe it, a remaster of Metroid Prime. What will they think of next? The remaster was unveiled during a Nintendo Direct presentation on February 8, 2023, and was released digitally later that day. Like the original, the story follows bounty hunter Samus Aran as she battles space pirates and their smorgasbord of biological experiments on the planet Talon 4. Developed by Retro Studios, Remastered gives the classic title a fresh lease of life, offering players all the fun of the original, but with shiny new graphics, updated controls, and a whole bunch of unlockable art. The OG Metroid Prime wowed critics with its varied environments, immersive atmosphere, level design, and much, much more, and the remaster was no different. Critics were very pleased with how the developers had been able to honour the original whilst bringing it in line with the modern standards. Put simply, it was a shining example of how to do a remaster well. You know, as long as you don't think about the whole not crediting the original devs debacle. We won't get into that now, will we? Number 3, Alan Wake 2, Xbox Series, 94%. Lock the doors, close the curtains, and get ready to hide behind the sofa cushions because it's spooky time. Alan Wake's first adventure was released all the way back in 2010, and since then, fans have been clamouring for a sequel. Well, in October 2023, their prayers were finally answered when Remedy Entertainment and Epic Games Publishing dropped Alan Wake 2. And oh boy, or girl, or other, was it worth the wait? As the title would suggest, Alan Wake 2 sees players catching up with the eponymous Al, who's been trapped in an alternate dimension for a whopping 13 years, as he attempts to escape by writing a horror story about an FBI agent. The game boasts not one, but two campaigns, one from Alan's perspective and one from Special Agent Saga Anderson's point of view. And unlike its predecessor, which was somewhat action-oriented with just a dash of spookums, Alan Wake 2 fully leans into the horror. Tense gameplay, a well-written, dark, twisty story, excellent voice performances, and stunning art direction were all called out by critics, who were floored by the quality of the game. Let's just hope we don't have to wait another 13 years for a follow-up. How about you wake me when they announce it? Get it? Number 2, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Switch, 96%. It was a very close run race for the best game of 2023, but although it seemed for a time like The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom had it in the bag, it was, in the end, pipped to the post. It's still a bloody cracking game though. Released in May 2023, Tears of the Kingdom takes place several years after the events of Breath of the Wild, and sees everyone's favourite Peter Pan tribute act, Link, exploring Hyrule as he tries to find the Princess Zelda and prevent Ganon from destroying the place. Like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom takes place in an open world, and places much of its focus on exploration. However, a number of new elements have been added. Players are able to journey to two new areas, the sky and the depths, and new building mechanics allow fans to make a whole variety of different creations. Although it didn't quite attain as high of a review score as its predecessor, missing out on matching it by just 1 point, Tears of the Kingdom still received universal critical acclaim. Within just 3 days of its release, 10 million copies had been sold, and at the time of writing, it's already the 9th best-selling game of all time for the Switch. Even more bubbly at the Nintendo Christmas party by the sounds of things. And number 1, Baldur's Gate 3, PC, 96%. In recent years, Dungeons & Dragons have enjoyed something of a renaissance period, with everyone and their dog, from video game voice actors like Matt Mercer and Laura Bailey, to huge Hollywood stars like Vin Diesel and Jack Black, enjoying a slice of the 20-sided pie. Because of this, there's little wonder that Baldur's Gate 3 was more hotly anticipated than a visit from Santa Claus on Christmas Eve, and when it finally landed on PC in August 2023, it did not disappoint. Players start out by creating a character, picking from a wide variety of races, classes and backgrounds, before embarking on an adventure that sees them trying to find someone, anyone, that can remove the illithid tadpole from their brain before it forces them to undergo ceremorphosis, which would see them transformed into a mind flayer. Lovely. Critics could find nary a flaw with Baldur's Gate 3, complimenting everything from its art direction, graphics and depiction of Faerun, to its writing, voice acting and mechanics, which were adapted wonderfully from D&D 5th edition. There was the odd bug here and there, but Studio Larian seemed committed to working out the kinks, and besides, they're barely any trouble anyway. So, congratulations to you, Baldur's Gate 3, for rolling a nat 20 on your performance check. Enjoy this big bag of gold and unlimited free drinks at the tavern. You've earned them.